we're using an ATF Form 2 as an eraser. If you don't know why that's funny, I'm sorry. Today's video is another one using the whiteboard of logic. You guys seemed to like that one last time I did it, so we're going to do it again for this one. And this one comes specifically from the audience, and the question is, why do suppressors increase the back pressure of the gun? And to answer that, short form is they don't at all. This is what happens when you put marketing people in charge of things. Marketing people are good at marketing and piss a whole bunch of people off, get attention. Pretty much how we do everything. But we are going to be digging into what the phenomenon that we see back here that is typically associated with increased back pressure, what that actually is and why it has actually nothing to do with the pressure of the system whatsoever. But before we do, we have to get the lay of the land. We have some nomenclature we have to go over. This is all left up from the last whiteboard of logic. I'll have it in the comment section down below if you guys want to go find that video and see what we were talking about. But I thought it was pertinent, so we left it up there for this thing. Rifle, mid-length carbine, and I suppose we'll go ahead and throw a pistol up there too. And pistol is typically 4. I've never seen a 16-inch before, but that would put us at 12. So nomenclature. Gas length is the distance from the end of the headspace to the gas port. The post-gas length is the remainder of the barrel that exists in front of the gas port. It's pretty easy stuff, I would think so. You won't see probably a pistol gas system with a 16-inch barrel. I mean, maybe when 9x39 stuff starts coming out, you might see something like that, but probably won't see a whole lot of that. Usually these are shorter because of one of the things that we're going to talk about here in a second. If you'll notice, as the gas length shrinks, the post-gas length grows, but also the pressure increases as we go down the spectrum. So the misnomer that I've heard many times, and I have probably used even more times than I've heard it used, is that when you add a suppressor to one of these things, you basically shift down one position here. So rifle becomes a mid becomes a carbine becomes a pistol becomes an improvised explosive. No, I'm just kidding. Now I have some equations to talk about. Flow, volume divided by time, and you can think about this as how much, how fast. Volume, flow times time, so that would be how much. Pressure is flow times resistance, so that's like how hard. And then resistance is the change in pressure divided by the flow. So the more resistance you have, the higher the pressure. If everything else stays the same, you get the idea. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the dwell time. Dwell, that's not a D, that is terrible. This is our barrel. Here you have it. And here we have a gas port, and that gas port runs back to run the gun, basically. So I want you to think of a barrel like a hydraulic piston. You have a explosion that goes off down here, pushes the piston, which is the bullet, down the barrel, and then as it passes the gas port, the system becomes pressurized and it runs that hot gas, expanding gas, back to the guts, runs the gun. The bullet then leaves, and the pressure in the barrel then equalizes with the environment. That's why it's loud. What we need to talk about is the post-gas length. The barrel is pressurized the entire time the bullet is in that space, and that is called the dwell time. So how can we get to time from all this? Well, we know that velocity equals distance divided by time, right? Well, we have a distance, so we know this distance right here. So that is going to be the post-gas length. Well, if we know how fast the bullet is going in a relativistic sense, by the time it leaves, it's going 2,600 feet per second, approximately, something like that. So if we do that finagling, solve for time, time would equal the post-gas length divided by the velocity of the bullet. This is going to give us a really tiny time, nanoseconds probably. Is probably what that's measured in. What happens when we put that can on the end of the gun? Holy haircut, right? Actually, on the way back from the barbershop, I thought about a different way to do this. And I think we're going to go with that route because I'm somewhat concerned that we may lose some of the audience with using 4 equations to do this. I'll show you really quick basically where I'm going with this. Time, as far as these 4 equations are concerned, you'll notice that pressure has nothing to do with time. Resistance has nothing to do with time. So we have to work basically with flow and volume. We could substitute those into this, and that's more algebra than I care to do on a YouTube video. So basically, if you start playing with this time, if we increase the time on the flow, we get less flow. Well, that doesn't make hardly any sense, right? And then if we increase the time component in the volume, then we end up with more volume. So there's a balancing act that occurs here. And to show it in a different way, I think I want to go with a different equation, which is, and real quick caveat, energy is not always conserved, momentum is. So if we go with the momentum equation, M equals force times time, and just kind of as an approximation, take this pressure here as the force, then I think we can do some good work here. Big graph here. Let's talk about pressure really quick, how it works inside the barrel before we start using the momentum equation. If you pressurize something and then change the volume, which is that hydraulic piston that we talked about, the bullet's changing position inside the barrel, you're going to have something that looks like exponential decay. So it was at this pressure, we changed the volume, pressure's going to drop. We can see that. The farther up we move the sample point, which is the gas port, the lower the pressure becomes. We start at the carbine all the way up here and we drop. Well, it's not a true exponential decay because remember, this is not a closed system. It's changing. There's powder still burning as the bullet moves down the barrel. So really what we get is we end up with this spike initially, right? And then it kind of levels off, and then it starts its kind of exponential decay. But it's a broader curve because we have basically the powder that's burning in the barrel is bumping that exponential decay up a little bit. And that's how we get to that curve that you guys saw earlier in the video. So the reason I want to use momentum is because we get essentially a how much for how long. And that's exactly how the gun works. There's a force pushed back on the bolt carrier group, and it happens for a finite amount of time. It's an impulse that occurs. And that's really what we're trying to define. We know that we have an input pressure of the gun. So whatever the barrel pressure is, wherever the gas port is, we're going to get an operational pressure, and it's going to dwell at that pressure along this curve for as long as the bullet is in the barrel. So if we look at the system that way, then we can start to move things around relative to time. So if this thing is, say, for instance, a 20-inch barrel, okay, and we're using a carbine length gas system, for instance, if the bullet would exit here, the pressure and the dwell pressure would drop right there all the way down to 0, correct? Well, let's say that we just chop the end of it off, and now it's a 16-inch barrel. Well, now we're going to get a drop in pressure down to 0 right there. What happens when we put a can on the end of the gun is we don't get a complete seal around the bullet inside the can, but we get a good enough seal that it effectively increases that dwell time. That post-gas length is increased by the can. So what that does is it re-extends that along the curve, and then it drops off back down to 0 once the bullet exits the can. So if we try to define this a little bit different way, this is how long and how much stuff is going back towards the bolt carrier group. So right there, how much stuff are we sending backwards? And that's the difference. we're increasing the dwell time of the system, and by increasing the dwell time of the system, we extend the time in which the force that we are generating from the gas bleed off, from the pressure that we built in the barrel, is pushing against the guts of the gun, and therefore it increases the amount of gas load that we're getting, the amount of stuff. Gas load equals stuff that we're sending back towards the guts of the gun. And that's why it gets a little bit dirtier, and therefore it gets a little bit gassier, and therefore there's a little bit more violence going on inside the firearm. That's the word I'm looking for, because we've got more time in which that force is acting on the operational components of the gun, therefore increasing the reciprocation speed. Has nothing to do with the pressure. In fact, again, measured numbers. I didn't make these numbers up. These have been duplicated time and time again. You increase the size of the cylinder, the dimensions of the cylinder, i.e. the size of the thing behind the bullet, the pressure is going to decrease. The operational pressure will absolutely decrease. It has nothing to do with increasing the pressure of the system. So the next time you see one of your friends say the back pressure increased, smack them. Don't actually do that. Don't hit people. Do as I say, not as I do. I hope you guys learned something in today's video. If you did, smash that subscribe button down below and share it around with that share button. It really does help out. And hopefully I did a good enough job where we'll see you guys back here again for a future video on the VSO Gun Channel.